The third thing that was pretty pressing that came back to me from our public was the importance of our rec centers. There was a time early in this year where people were saying rec centers were going to close. We only have 14 rec centers in the city. And I'm 100% opposed to closing any rec centers. I've gone out and we cut the rec center's budget by almost 50%. It was $18 million. In our budget, we cut $8 million. I've been able to go out through foundations, through some of the major businesses here, through some of the nonprofits, and I've raised at least $14 million so far. So we're going to, over a 2-year period, I think we will have at least enough money in our budget to keep our rec centers open with all the programs in there, so that not only our kids, but our seniors really use the rec centers very heavily. So I want to make sure that they stay open, and I think we will achieve the kind of money that I've raised so far to have at least 2 years of runway. The other thing that's very important for our citizens is transportation, public transportation. And we've had a problem with our bus system for a long, long time. We brought in an outside management team because the feedback that I got from the unions was that we got bad managers, we got bad supervisors, they don't know what they're doing, they don't plan right, et cetera, et cetera. We brought in an outside management team and have almost a 30% improvement in a lot of areas in the bus system. I think that's going in the right direction. One of the other things as we looked at in the city was obviously we have over 60,000 empty, vacant, dangerous homes. 60,000. And I made a commitment in my second year that we would start demolishing 3,000 per year, 10,000 for the first term. And we've been able to do that in year one. We were about 3,300 that we demolished. And as I speak to you today, we're about 2,100. And so we got about another 900 or so to go to meet the 3,000 for this year. But pretty soon we're going to run out of money. There's not this pot of gold that I can constantly reach in and demolish the homes. The homes on average, about 8,500 to 10,000 per home when we demolish it. But we got to be very careful and very, in my opinion, very strategic, because we can't tear down everything in the city. So now we have a plan. There are some homes that are in decent shape that we can rehab. So we're going to start doing that. You'll see that starting to happen this year. We'll start rehabbing homes. Okay. But my biggest problem is trying to convince people, because Detroit is 139 square miles when we had close to 2 million people. Still 139 square miles with 700,000 people. So we've got people spread out all over our city. There are blocks and blocks where you may have 1 or 2 homes where people live. And the overhead cost is a tremendous burden on the city. So as we start to rehab some of these homes into good communities, strong neighborhoods, we're trying to convince people that that's where they ought to move. And that's difficult because you've got people that have lived in the homes up through generations. They've lived in a community, they lived in that neighborhood, and nobody wants to move. But what we've got to do is try to convince people that we've got to get as much density as we possibly can so that we can afford the services that you require. And I've just gone through those services, and those are the ones that we're going to focus on for the rest of this year and next year. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get other services. But when you talk about garbage collection, you talk about trash collections, those are core services that we've got to provide. We're looking at outsourcing some things. But I will tell you, from a union perspective, our unions will have the opportunity to participate in the quoting process. We're not here just to get rid of our labor unions. But we've got to make sure that everybody is as competitive as they can be, because your taxes is what allows us to pay for the services that you need. So I will tell you that I believe, and going back to Reverend, November is going to be exceedingly important for us in this city. Because if Obama doesn't win again, because he and his administration have been very helpful to the city of Detroit, and we've got to do everything that we can to ensure that we go out and maximize the vote, because Detroit, with 700,000 people, really can carry the state of Michigan. So we got to get as many people out to vote as we possibly can, because I don't want to see somebody else in there.
That's right.
Okay? I don't want to see Romney in there. Let me be very specific. I want to see Obama for another term, because I think he deserves it, number one. One of the things that the Reverend said, or didn't say maybe, was that we now have over 30 million people with health insurance that they didn't have. Okay? So he's done a lot, I think, for a lot of low-income and middle-class people. And so we've got to make sure that we go out and we encourage everybody as best we can to vote, so that Obama can have another term and we can continue to get the support that we've gotten to this point from his administration. So, you know, there are some positive things happening in Detroit. And I constantly say this, you know, our media got to do a better job in talking about the positive things. Because every headline, you know, whether it's TV or the newspapers, it's about the negative things that are going on, as if that's all that's happening in our city. But there's some good things going on. And we need to really be positive at this point. I'm not asking the media to hide the negative things, because they're there. That's our reality. But let's really talk about that glass being half full as opposed to half empty. And one of the things that we've got to hope for in the city of Detroit is hope itself. That just because we're going through this cycle of some negative things that are going on doesn't mean that we can't come out of it. What I've been impressed with, thoroughly impressed with, is the fight in our people. People love this city. People don't want to continue down the road that we've gone down for so long. So it's time for change. But most people fight change because you don't know what's going to happen on the other side. And you got to have some faith. So as I look at the rest of this year and next year, we have a lot of things in queue that we've been planning for some time that are now getting ready to start to come out. Just as late as yesterday, we got $44 million in our city. But as I look at the audience here, it may not impact you because it's not in your neighborhood. But it's $44 million downtown on the riverfront to start to finish up the eastern part of the riverfront. We will finish that with this $44 million. On yesterday, we also, between SMART and DDOT, got a $30 million grant to upgrade our buses, to put some security cameras on our buses so we can protect you as the riders as well as our drivers. But there are a lot of good things that are happening. I'm going back to Washington next month. Hopefully probably will meet with the president, but I'll be meeting with some of the key secretaries in his administration where we can get some money, HUD being one, Department of Transportation being another. And they've been very supportive of Detroit. So I believe we're going to be able to get continued support. That's why, once again, I think it's so important for us to understand how important it is to return Obama to the presidency. So at this point, if there's opportunity for Q&A, I'll be more than happy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that.